Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis, and we are doing receivers. Position group breakdowns, they continue. We're doing all 10 position groups, Bill, and this one's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask some big picture questions. As we always do, we're going to have our overall 1 to 100 ratings for what I think, what you think, what our Substack subscribers think. And just like very quickly, if you want to join us on Substack and get to vote and stuff like this, you get 2 extra shows, podcasts a week that are only for Substack subscribers, which people seem to like. You get to send us questions and interact that way, plus all the written stuff. That's Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. Bill Landis, is this possibly the greatest Ohio State receiver duo ever with the seasons that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are having in 2025?
Oh, man. Possibly. Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think.
I got a list.
Okay. I mean, is there anything that like predates Brian Hartline that makes the list?
So it's hard. And I apologize in advance. I did not go into the Wayback Archives, like the way back.
Mm-hmm.
As people know, because I'm a self-centered and occasionally, what's the other word? Self-centered. No, just self-centered. I sometimes start Ohio State history with my first year on the beat. Sure. So the only one pre-Brian Hartline I included was Santonio Holmes and Ted Ginn Jr. in 2005. Okay. Which is 2 first rounders. And also Anthony Gonzalez was on that team and he also became a first rounder. So like that's, if we're doing trios, you start having that discussion and that kind of thing. But the stats are hard because, first of all, we're now into a situation with the Big Ten championship game and the playoff that you just like cumulative stats, you're building things up, but also Ohio State just played differently. So in 2005, Santonio Holmes and Ted Ginn Jr. combined for 1,780 receiving yards, which is great, but is not where we're talking now with what these guys do, right? So I think we have that understanding. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate right now, with Carnell Tate missing 3 games and Jeremiah Smith missing 1, and this whole potentially 3 more games ahead of them, have 1,924 receiving yards, right? Yeah. So this is not put it in the history books definitive, but it's what Doug wrote on a piece of notebook paper before he started the show. 2005, Santonio Holmes, Ted Ginn Jr. 2021, which is like the difficult year because it's 3. Because I don't know if you'll ever get better than the JSN, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave trio, where Wilson and Olave didn't play in the Rose Bowl, and Jackson Smith and Jigba went nuts, and then Marv also went nuts as your 4th. Like, it's just ridiculous. But the top 2, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson, 2,664 receiving yards that year. 2022, Marvin Emeka, 2,414 receiving yards. Last year, JJ and Emeka, 2,326 receiving yards. So, and that Tate and Smith are on the cusp of 2,000 with 3 games left to play. Terry
like 4
Smith,
games missed. Actually, it's
4
actually
games missed.
It's almost 5 games missed because Jeremiah only played 20-something snaps against UCLA.
Yep. So Terry Smith, the Penn State interim coach, started this discussion by saying, "I know there have been a lot of receivers that have come through Ohio State, but these are the 2 best: Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith." Which that set off alarm bells, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And as you pointed out, that was maybe not a peak, but because a peak implies maybe you couldn't get higher. It's like so far off that Penn State game, Carnell Tate 5 catches for 124 and a touchdown. Jeremiah Smith 6 catches for 123 and 2 touchdowns. So Terry Smith saw these 2 guys at their most dangerous and robust and came off the field and said, "I've never seen anything better at Ohio State than these 2." So I'm not invalidating that at all. It might be right, but do you think it's right?
I think these 2, if they're at their best and they're healthiest, I think I probably would take them. Yeah, because there's the production, but then there's also just sort of like the physical component. They're just so hard to cover. Like they're just so big and so fast and outliers, I think, in a lot of ways compared to some of the other Ohio State receivers of this most recent era. Like the exception is Marvin, because he was pretty big too. But for Jeremiah and Carnell to just be sort of like as physically dominant as they are, in addition to being highly productive, I do think I would take this tandem.
Yeah. Man, it's hard. It's hard. This would be a fun, like I think we could have some fun with some kind of off-season wide receiver something, right? Some trying to rig them or draft them or something. One of the things, like as we've sort of discussed, as we've had versions of this discussion in the past, is like if you throw in a guy like Emeka Egbuka as a slot, and that is sort of like a complementary guy to whether it's Marv, whether it's JJ, that's kind of a different thing. But I do think Carnell and Jeremiah are similar, but yet they also seem complementary. They don't seem duplicative to me, right? That I feels like they play very well together.
They definitely play well together, but I guess I would say maybe stylistically they are probably more similar than they are different, right? You just kind of like spark something in my mind there with like the Emeka thing, right? It's if you're really having this conversation and trying to decide which one you like best, they're all excellent. Might you lean toward, we got one guy who does this stuff, and we got another guy who does this stuff, and like and that's kind of what it was like with Jeremiah and Emeka, because Emeka is playing out of the slot. You can throw him the ball over the middle, you can get him the ball shorter, there's after the catch stuff, there's like run game components involved with that too. Like he's a different kind of blocker if you want to take it that far, right? So maybe that would be something that somehow takes away from this current tandem, is that Jeremiah and Carnell, I think, do tend to do pretty similar things. They're just both really good at it, and because they're almost like mirrors of each other on the other side, like on the opposite sides of the field, which I would imagine is pretty difficult to cover for a defense. But I do think there could be an argument for kind of mixing up the flavors of receivers in a different way, which would maybe point you toward like one dynamic outside guy and one dynamic inside guy.
I do think they're both ones, right?
Yeah.
Carnell Tate is being projected now as like the 5th pick in the draft. You don't pick a guy to be a number 2 receiver and have him as the number 5 pick in the draft. They're both ones. I do think Jeremiah, as we've like, Carnell's been maybe just a little bit more of the shot down the field guy, whether I don't know if that's skill or circumstance or coverage, the way that defense is aligned, but I do think it's a little bit of a credit to Jeremiah that Jeremiah Smith has kind of at times become Ohio State's possession receiver. Like he has more, I think has 48 first downs on the season, and Carnell has 33, which is both very good. And also Carnell missed 3 games, but like Jeremiah has sort of turned into that just because of the way things have worked out, because Carnell Tate is really good at running by people and going down the field, but also so is Jeremiah Smith. But I do think they are, because sometimes 2 ones I think can get in each other's way. Have you ever felt like Tate and JJ have gotten in each other's way at all this season? Like when it's on the field, not in terms of accruing stats or getting awards.
No. I think they've helped each other. And I bet Jeremiah would probably tell you, I guess he only had to play like a game and a quarter without Carnell, but I bet it felt different, not having him out there. And then you kind of you saw like sort of come back to the forefront in the Michigan game, right? That the touchdown that Carnell scored came in part because Jeremiah took some attention away from him, and Jeremiah's probably done that more for Carnell than the opposite, but the opposite has happened too. So no, I don't think they get in each other's way at all. The bigger conversation is why aren't they always on the field together? I think, right? Is what people are asking themselves after the Indiana game.
Part of me wonders if this is right. I was just looking like 2021, that amazing year where Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave each wound up with more than 100 targets each, and they almost all got to 1,000 yards. Olave was a little short. By PFF drops in that year, Wilson and Smith and Jigba each had 6, and Olave had 5. By PFF, they have JJ with 2 drops, which is both in the Texas game, and Carnell Tate with none. So that
I looked that up too, and I looked at, so that's on PFF. I also looked at Sports Info Solutions.
Yeah,
and they have Ohio State's receivers as having run 896 routes this year with only 4 drops, the entire position group. And the only other teams like that have fewer drops in Ohio State are like service academies. who have like
don't.
200 routes run compared to Ohio State's 900 routes run.
It's remarkable. Again, this is a little bit of like the ceiling, of course, is there. But sometimes when you have guys making circus catches, then you run into like, oh, they dropped the routine one. It's like they don't drop the routine one. JJ dropped 2 against Texas. Everybody was like, what's going on? He didn't drop a ball the rest of the year.
Which he did last year too, right? Didn't he drop like his first target like in the first game of the season and then didn't drop another one the rest of the year? He only had one last year, I think. Yeah.
I think that's right. Okay. So that's one of the 3 things that I wanted to cover. Are they the best combo in Ohio State history? Aggregators, mark it down. Bill Landis says yes. Okay. 2. 98 targets for Jeremiah Smith in 12 games, 58 targets for Carnell Tate in 10 games. And we're just talking the receiver position. Brandon Inniss, 39 targets in 13 games. And as we talk about a position group, right, it's more than 2 people at receiver. I looked at the last, like in the Ryan Day era, the number 3 wide receiver on the team in terms of targets. How many targets per game did they average? Very quickly, 2025, Brandon Inniss, 3 targets per game. 2024, Carnell Tate, 4.5 targets. 2023, Julian Fleming, 3.4 targets. 2022, Julian Fleming, 4.7 targets. 2021, when Chris Olave is your 3rd receiver, 8.4 targets. I feel like we need to go back and like rewatch 2021 and these 3 receivers and like get our heads around it again. How these guys did this, just absolutely ridiculous. Doesn't really count because it was a one and done thing. 2020, Julian Fleming, 1.9 targets per game when that was basically Wilson and Olave were the entire passing offense, and Julian Fleming and Jamison Williams got 1 target a game. And then Ben Victor, 2019, 3.6 targets. So here's my main thing. Brandon Inniss in the Ryan Day era is the 2nd lowest. The only other one is 2020 when it was basically like they didn't have a 3rd receiver. It's not that far below like 2023 when it was, like 2 guys getting leaned on a ton with Marv. And then that was the year Mecca was hurt a little bit, right? But still, they didn't really throw to a 3rd guy very much. How do we take this all into account when we're trying to evaluate something like a position group? I think we talked about this with some other things. We talked about on the defensive line. It's like, oh, they don't rotate much. It's like, oh, you mean they have the best players on the field all the time? Oh, no. It's like, oh, no, they throw to their 2 best receivers who are both 1st-round picks or are both top 10 picks. They throw to them constantly. Oh, no, the 3rd receiver only averages 3 targets a game. Is that actually an issue?
Yeah, maybe a small one. Like I don't know that it's changed the offense, right? I think that much is true. And I guess there's like there's a chicken and egg conversation there, but like, are they playing more 12 personnel because they wanted to? So they went out and got Max Clare and brought him in because they had that specific idea in mind, or are they playing more 12 personnel because they just don't think they're that dynamic at the slot receiver position? And they would prefer to be, but they're not. So this is them like working around it. I don't know the answer to that, but I, and there's probably truth in both ideas, I suppose. But I think it is a bit of an issue that the offense doesn't have a little more pop out of the slot receiver position. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it negatively affects the offense in a way that affects football, winning?
I think it makes it probably increases the difficulty on offense a little bit. It does feel like I haven't looked at this. It's just like more anecdotal, I guess, from watching games. Like the middle of the field doesn't seem like it's used a whole lot. It seems like a lot of Ohio State's passing offense is outside and down the field. And even like when the ball gets to Max Clare or whatever, like it's in the flats a lot, right? So I think maybe there's an area of the field there in the short and intermediate middle that Ohio State probably could attack better. If it had a better slot receiver, sure, but also like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate can do those things too. They just kind of don't have them running those routes very much.
I also wonder sometimes with the middle of the field if that's just I felt like in 2019 they didn't throw the ball in the middle field very much with Justin Fields, and I think that's just a more difficult thing to diagnose and kind of thread the needle in there sometimes for a younger quarterback. And if you're throwing free money outs and you're taking some deep shots and then you're taking stuff in the flat and checkdowns, right? Like you just stay out of the danger zone. I think that could be related to young quarterback stuff as well. I think they probably play off each other. That if Emeka Egbuka is here as a super veteran slot guy, and it was just like, or Jackson Smith and Jigba, where it's like Jackson Smith and Jigba, knows exactly what to do. If it's man, if it's zone, do you keep running? Do you settle down? Do you give your quarterback a nice window to throw to? And you make a young quarterback feel comfortable throwing in the middle of the field because you have a super weapon in the slot. So I think that could happen. But I think that the combination of first-year starting quarterback and not a super weapon in the slot means you might just like stay out of there. And I think it might be at least somewhat quarterback related as well.
Yeah, and he's a smaller quarterback too, so that might even contribute to it a little more. Yeah, I think that's right. I don't. There is a thing, and like I haven't really quite wrapped my head around how to ask it, but I've seen people mention it, and kind of like increasingly mention it throughout the season. That Ohio State just does not seem to have a lot of passing concepts where guys are catching the ball on the run over the middle of the field with a chance to turn it into an explosive play. Like when they get an explosive play, it's because Carnell and Jeremiah have already caught the ball 40 yards down the field. And like if you look at the yak numbers for Ohio State, they're like middle of the pack nationally, just in raw yards after the catch. So it's not like they're bad. But remember, like Ryan Day's arrival at Ohio State was, we're going to run mesh 17 times a game and get these guys in space, and people are going to be chasing them and everything's going to be explosive, and defenses adapt to that certainly. But I think there's probably more to tap into with the passing game if they started incorporating some more of that stuff. And I don't know why they don't do it. If it's because they don't have a super dynamic slot guy with like real juice, or I don't know, they don't want to expose Carnell or Jeremiah to getting decked over the middle on some of those plays. Like I guess there could be sound reasoning for why they don't do it, but I've certainly felt like it's noticeable too that a lot of Ohio State stuff is like outside and guys like kind of catching the ball at a standstill, and it's just and it's like it's great. They have a very good passing offense. I'm not saying it's bad, but just wondering if there's like a little more to tap into if they did some different stuff.
So I don't know if people can tell what we have done here is we have the 10 position groups and we divided them up, and I took the lead on 5 and you took the lead on 5. But as we sat down to record here for this episode, I got a wonderful surprise, which is Doug has the lead on receivers, but Bill accidentally did lead research on receivers before he realized it was Doug's group. So go ahead and dump what else you got before we move on to the other like the discussion areas I want to hit. I don't want to not use your wonderful research.
That was kind of the biggest thing, honestly, was the yards after the catch stuff. I didn't dig too deep into it. It was just I wanted to see where Ohio State ranked sort of in yards after the catch.
Okay.
Overall, they were 47th. If you isolate specifically in FBS, if you isolate specifically the receiver position, they're 55th. And that doesn't compute a little bit. Like if you think about how Ohio State's reputation for being wide receiver and then like they're 55th in anything related to receiver production is kind of strange. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe they do some different stuff in the postseason to kind of get guys in space and let them run after the catch more. Because healthy Jeremiah can do that. We've seen him do that. I don't know that we've seen Carnell get a bunch of opportunities for that. And maybe if you're listing the 10 best things about Carnell Tate's game, maybe like run after the catch is like 8th. So maybe you wouldn't want to do that necessarily, but they just have like at times it's felt like maybe the degree of difficulty with some of the passing offense is a little higher than it needs to be, which is like another way of saying they get a little shot heavy sometimes. And that I don't know that I felt that really until the Indiana game, but it really stuck out in the Indiana game. And I just feel like there's got to be like easier throws for Julian and easier catches and quicker routes for Jeremiah and Carnell, like those kind of situations for them to get into where they can still maintain that explosive element, but not everything is so dependent on your offensive line holding up for 4 seconds and like precision downfield passing.
I got to say, I think this is right. We could have, I'll double check it with Tim. the great Tim May. This sticks in my head for some reason. I think like the most analytical, not critical, but like constructive, but analytical thing I ever read from Tim in the Columbus Dispatch before he retired was, I think one time he wrote a piece, I think while Ted Ginn Jr. was there, about how Ohio State doesn't throw the ball to Ted Ginn Jr. so he can catch it when he's on the move, and that they should do it more. And it was like Tim sort of breaking that down. They used to throw like a lot of standing still, like bubble screens to Ted Ginn Jr., just standing flat footed on the edge. And it's like, catch it, now go. And I was like, oh, yes, like, and here we are, 20 years later, talking about you have these supreme athletes, maybe let them catch it on the move and see what happens. Smith and Jigba, Wilson and Olave in 21 did blow our minds and throw us off. I do think one of the things here, it's not like Ohio State's third receiver regularly is busting games open.
Yeah.
But I do think what happens sometimes, like for instance, Carnell Tate is illustrative of this, is sometimes that third receiver is a young guy who has gone from not really playing to being a starter, but not yet being a primary weapon. But while they are the number 3, you can see the future as like, oh, this guy's going to graduate to something. And I don't know that people view Brandon Inniss that way. Brandon Inniss is like a rock of the program. He is a leader. He is a captain. He is incredibly important to what Ohio State does. But I don't think people are sitting around saying, oh, man, wait till 2026 and Brandon Inniss is going to go nuts. And I think if it was the exact same player, if it was Mylan Graham's what he is, second-year player, 5-star recruit, playing the Brandon Inniss role with the Brandon Inniss stats, I think even if it was exactly the same in how it affected the offense this year, I think everybody might be more accepting of it because they would view it as a step to something the following year for the person in that role, where that's not exactly how you see Brandon Inniss. Maybe correctly, maybe incorrectly. But, like Julian Fleming and Jamison Williams, and there's just been years where the third receiver hasn't done much. And that's kind of how it is. And so I do think at times I felt like, man, they're not getting a ton out of the third receiver. Although Brandon Inniss, I think, has provided more to the offense in the second half of the season than the first half. But also there were other years they won the they made the national championship game in 2020 throwing the 2 guys. They did not, like Jamison Williams was just running go routes and getting ignored on every play. Right. It's like they didn't have a third receiver in that offense in 2020, and they were the second best team in the country. So that also can happen with this team, even with receiver rooms this good.
Yeah, it can. I think I do think it is worth like pointing out that Inniss has made some big catches here down the stretch, right? I think he's been pretty reliable on third down. Had the touchdown catch against Michigan. Maybe he's a guy that can help Ohio State unlock some more red zone efficiency if they need to throw the ball better down there. But I think the expectations were pretty high. They always are for every Ohio State receiver. Any 5-star guy who's just sort of like waiting in the wings to get his shot, the expectation is like, well, you got it, now do something with it. And that hasn't really hit that way with Inniss. And there's also not I thought he might be a guy who can give you a little bit in the run game, like a Mecca. I thought he'd be a good run blocker, and like by PFF grade, he's actually their worst run blocker. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a letdown. I think he does a lot of intangible things for them, like as a captain and a leader that shouldn't be ignored. But Ohio State's receiver room is also judged by, how you kind of change games. And I don't know that they get that from that position right now. And I think there probably were opportunities for some younger guys to do it, and they didn't necessarily kind of take that and run with it either. So yeah, it is very much a 2-man show right now.
2020, Chris Olave, 50 catches on 59 targets, 727 yards. Garrett Wilson, 43 catches on 58 targets, 723 yards. This, of course, is the COVID year, so the stats are limited. So anyway, targets for the top 2 receivers, 59 and 58. Jamison Williams, 13 targets. Julian Fleming, 13 targets for the whole year. Jamison Williams, 154 receiving yards. The first 2 guys had over 700. The third guy had 154. Like, that's how stark that drop-off was, just as a reminder. Okay.
Like half of them were in the Clemson game.
Yeah.
on one catch. Yeah.
So let's Yeah, that really was. So let's remind ourselves. Let's go ahead and do the grades before we get to sort of the future question I want to ask about this receiver room. We do it from 1 to 100. 100 is perfect, great, awesome. 1 is what is going on. Guess where our Substack subscribers were on rating this receiver room?
86.
91.
Okay.
91. Where are you?
88.
88. Okay. If Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith had 0 injury issues and had played every meaningful snap the whole year, where would you be?
Maybe slightly higher, like a low 90. The only thing I'm taking away is that like we've seen nothing from the rest of the room.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of a bummer and also potentially a fairly large issue.
Yeah. For this year, or you mean overall? Like for
the
future?
Not for the future mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been all over the place with this. I'm going to land at 94 because I think I'm going to land that high. And it's one of those, is it what you want it to be, or are you accepting like what it is and how it's happening?
Mm-hmm.
When they are healthy, we think they are the best receiver combo in Ohio State history. That the top 2 guys in this room are both going to be top 10 NFL draft picks. And they are both pure number 1 receivers who can do it all. And then they mostly throw to them. And they are the engine of the offense when they are healthy and being used correctly. And I do think Ohio State has done a good job of using these guys. It is not, that's like, I think you've gotten a lot out of Jeremiah Smith for how talented he is and how much defenses lean toward him. You have not let defenses dictate. I do not think you've let defenses dictate. I think you've tried. The Ohio State's done a decent job of dictating to defenses with Jeremiah Smith's uses. His targets are up there. Like, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 98 targets. Yeah,
so that's pretty good. And so if you're top 2, and I do think it's one of those, like, we did it with the offensive line, we did it with the defensive line. It's like, well, let's go through all the positions, and if it's 5 offensive linemen, what would you rate each one out of 20? I would not go through the 3 receiver spots and be like, okay, let's do out of 33 at each receiver spot. Like, what are you? Well, okay. The Tate receiver spot, that's a 33 out of 33, and JJ's 33 out of 33. And then the slot spot is like a 20 out of 33. So then that puts me at an 86, right? Because because I don't think the 3rd receiver spot is as important as the first 2, the way they are used. And even like, I think that is a reflection of the reality. But I also even think it's okay if that's the plan, that I don't think you have to have equal distribution. And we know how much Ohio State loves to use the slot receiver, and they have. But I don't think it makes it clunky to not focus on the slot receiver spot that way. So then if I try to maybe just like diminish the impact of that role, because that's what the reality is, then the other 2 guys are like as good as it gets.
Right.
They're as good as it gets. And then if you want to take like some small number of points off for health, I think that's reasonable because that's just what happened. But I do think maybe if you were like, what's 100 receiver room look like? It's probably the JSN Olave Wilson receiver room. When those are your 3 guys, it's like, I don't know. Probably a 91 on those guys. It's like, no, you're not at a 91. That's 100 out of 100. That's as good as it gets.
Well, it'd be that like that if you take that entire season, because it's like they were great throughout the season, and then Chris and Garrett didn't play, and then the guys who stepped up were great.
Yes,
right? That's 100. That's 100.
Because it's ceiling and depth and distribution and everything. Yeah.
And this has the greatness, no doubt about it. Maybe the greatness more than any other receiver season has had, but the rest of the stuff's not there.
The rest of the stuff is not there. And it is odd because we could have been in a situation. It's a little bit like Justin Fields in 2019 when there was no backup quarterback. But we never had to find out. Right? That it was like we knew there wasn't a backup quarterback, but it never really, because he came off the field for a snap against Michigan and came back on and was fine, right? You never really had to have proof of it. Maybe we would have gone through this season wondering, it's like, man, they don't really ever play those young receivers very much. And a couple times they've been on the field in blowouts, we don't really see anything. And then they had to put the depth out there against Rutgers, and they did not. It's like they didn't have a receiver room. So we had proof of it. So we know. And so you're saying that is reflected to at least some degree in a rating like this, because we are rating the whole room.
Yeah, I think it should be taken into account. I perhaps took it into account too much by going sub 90 with my grade, but
I don't mean to yell at you about your grade.
I think what you explained makes a lot of sense. But I just don't know. Like, if you ask Brian Hartline or Ryan Day, is this room up to the standard? You think they'd say yes?
No.
Yeah, I don't think they would either.
No. Which leads me to, so 91 average for our 3 grades. The subscribers, Bill, Doug. If you want to get to do stuff like this, Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. You do have to pay for that. It's not free. But you can put your email in for free. But you don't get to do all the stuff. You can just like go peruse and bounce around and see like, you can window shop. I still like window shopping at the holidays. I like going out to malls. I like looking at stuff. I don't want to do everything online. I'm an old man. I like the Christmas spirit out in the mall with crowds, even if I'm just looking. You like the Christmas spirit in the malls, or you just want to order stuff online?
I used to love it when I was a kid. Because my birthday is the 19th. So like I would get all my money on my birthday, and then I would go Christmas shopping with it. It was like the best time I had was going Christmas shopping with my birthday money. But I have not gone to the mall for Christmas shopping quite some time. I do.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wait, are you just painting a picture of little Philly Billy getting his birthday money and then using it to buy presents for his family for Christmas?
Yeah, that's what I used to do. Yeah.
Are you a Dickens character?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Maybe.
Mama and Papa, can me have my birthday money? That's not how they talk back then.
I have a very vivid memory of I don't know. I must have been like 11, and there's a Disney store in the Cherry Hill Mall, which is in New Jersey across the river from Philly. And I went into the Disney store and I got my brother a Tigger mug, like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, or like a cup, like a ceramic. Was blue that had Tigger all over it, and I bought it for him, and I walked out of the store and I dropped it, and it shattered all over the place.
No,
but because I was a child and I was like visibly upset about it, the very nice people at the Disney store just let me grab another one and not have to pay for a second one.
My God, this is a Dickens. This is a Christmas Carol for the modern day. Philly Billy and the Tigger mug. What a little vignette that is. Is this the greatest that Ohio State receiver room will ever be? This is the peak. And Brian Hartline is leaving, and Jeremiah Smith is one of one, and it'll never be better than this. Merry Christmas!
Yeah, maybe. It can still be very good, but if we think, because we throw the word generational around far too often for it to mean anything anymore, but Jeremiah truly is that, I think. So like, yeah. Will anybody ever quite hold a candle to that? Possibly not. So it could be the peak, but it doesn't mean the other side of it is just a straight downslope to mediocrity. It just means like you're good, but not quite as good.
I think the comparison, Jeremiah Smith is Chase Young, and where you were like with the Boses and Tyquan Lewis and Nick and Sam Hubbard, and sort of like guys like, okay, and then Chase Young in 2019 as a Heisman finalist, and he's setting sack records. And then after that, there was like a period of like, they're good at edge, but they don't have game records. And then there was a period of like, man, they actually kind of need to get some more sacks. And then you got to JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and the Scoop and Score and Caden Curry, and it's very good. Go listen to our defensive line show. It's very good. But nobody's Chase Young. And I don't think we for a while, you could feel, I think, the Chase Young hole in that room and at the position. And I think people were longing for it. And I don't know that we're longing for it anymore. But we also can acknowledge that Caden Curry is having an all-American year. Jack Sawyer made arguably the most impactful play in Ohio State history last year with a great play as an edge rusher. These things are happening, but they're not as good as Chase Young, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what we might be headed towards. And, you know, that there was a lot of things like building up that room in 2021 and then Emeka Egbuka, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. And then it's building up to Jeremiah Smith, who was first paired with Emeka Egbuka. Then he's paired with Carnell Tate. Holy moly. And you're going to get one more year of Jeremiah next year. You're not sure who he's going to be paired with. And then there's plenty of, like, Chris Henry Jr. might be great. I don't think he's going to be better than Jeremiah. But we were having conversations like in Jeremiah's fourth game. It's like we thought, is Marvin Harrison Jr. the greatest receiver in Ohio State history and simultaneously not as good as this true freshman who's played his third game? Those are the conversations we were having last year, and I think they were the correct conversations. I don't think we'll ever have that conversation again. And that's okay, but I also think, right, it's the Ed Helms in The Office saying, I wish people would tell you it was the good old days while they were happening. They're happening right now. If you love receiver play at Ohio State, you're in the good old days. And that's not a bad thing because there's lots of times in life where you never get to the good old days. But also the good old days don't go on for 30 years. You have to have an understanding of when something special is happening and it has a shelf life. And I think I would feel this way even if Brian Hartline wasn't leaving, because Jeremiah Smith is the zenith. How do you get better than Jeremiah Smith? Added in with Brian Hartline leaving, and it's not falling off a cliff. It's not turning bad, but I don't think it will be better. Maybe you can find a way for it to be close to as good if you really can have like three very good receivers on the field together, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think there's going to be another Jeremiah Smith coming because I think he is that special, and then also the Hartline component. So just like as we talk about the future, that's my view of the future for the receiver room, which shouldn't scare anybody, which should make you appreciate it in the moment. But also, I just think it's real talk.
I don't disagree with any of it, but I guess I would say that Ohio State will remain a destination for receivers.
I agree.
And because of that, there will be ample opportunity for Ohio State to still in a given season have the best receiver core in the country. It just may never quite be this good.
Right. So Orlando Pace, Chase Young, Jeremiah Smith, the zenith of certain position groups. Doesn't mean you can't be great there, but you'll never be better than what you put on the field there.
Right down that story,
What? Yeah. I'll put it in the when we do the Substack thing. I'm going to put it like we did. I said this on the Big Ten Network about Jeremiah. Like I said, like this is it. They did like a little mini journey thing on him, and I was like it's all been building up to something. Because when you're building up to something, there has to be the something. You can't just have build.
There's always a final boss. Yeah, there's always a final boss. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we are. What do you think realistically are the actual chances they bring in a veteran receiver in the portal? That next year, actually, Ohio State's two receivers are Jeremiah Smith and a guy added in the portal who's already been good somewhere else?
Like non-zero, but I wouldn't say they're particularly high.
Okay.
If I'm trying to think, like Cam Coleman at Auburn, I think is a guy that everyone's like has on their mind. If Cam Coleman were to enter the portal and just I think express a ton of interest in coming to play for Ohio State, I could see them taking a swing like that, because that's more in the category of elite guy wants to come here. What are you supposed to do, kind of thing, right?
That's like a Quinshawn Judkins move, right?
Yeah, where it's like I don't know that the. I think people might disagree that whether or not the need is there. I don't know that Ohio State views it as a glaring need with Jeremiah coming back. Brandon Inniss is coming back. I don't think Ohio State is writing off the Mylan Grahams or Quincy Porters of the world. Mm-hmm. And then you have Chris Henry Jr. coming in, who Ohio State has made a pretty hefty financial investment into to get to come to play for them. And the expectation is that he's going to play early. So I don't know that they'd want to necessarily bring in somebody to kind of disrupt all of that unless it's just a truly excellent player. And right now I would say that that player is not in the portal. I know Nick Marsh from Michigan State isn't there. Nice player. I don't think he's the guy that you kind of drop in here because you think he's another worldly kind of talent. So they've never done it. I could see them doing it, but if I had to guess one way or the other right now, I'd probably say no.
I would also wonder if they wind up making an outside hire at receivers coach, specifically if that receivers coach has an existing relationship that he says, I got a guy.
As a guy, yeah.
I'm either bringing him from my school, or there's this guy that I recruited, but the school I was at wasn't quite good enough for him to go to, but he's somewhere else, and now he's in the portal, and now the combination of me being at Ohio State, he wants to come play for me. Like, I think that could make it a little bit of a different conversation. Also, what do you think about the idea of like big brother, little brother, Jeremiah Smith, Chris Henry Jr. doing something next year? That could be a fun dynamic. Yes.
Yeah, I think that could be really good for Chris. It's not like Jeremiah didn't get that with Marvin. They just missed each other by a year. But I think, it's hard. I hesitate to talk about them in the same breath, only because it just puts a ton of expectation on Chris Henry. But we can also be realistic about it. Like, he's going to have a ton of expectations. So like, might as well, like, take it head on. I think it'd be really good for him. I think Jeremiah would embrace that role too, as a third-year guy, understanding like the legacy of the position and wanting to hand it down to kind of like the next one too. So I think that'll be a pretty powerful dynamic for Ohio State next year.
Okay. All right. That's it for our receiver breakdown. We're doing all 10 position groups. Make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube or in your podcast feed, so you get all of them, one a day. We're going to have just a bunch of other stuff leading up to Ohio State's first game in the college football playoff, a bunch of stuff over on Substack. Go visit our friends at roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use the code BAD20, BAD20 to get 20% off your first order. We'll talk to you soon. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.